In this time when people are restricted to go outside of their homes and tend to even work in the comfort of our own shelter, the power demand is being pushed at its peak. How can people be assured that we have safe and reliable electricity supply? Let's find out as Daily Tribune's Chronicle presents the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines, the Monster Within. Monopolistic business incentivizes unscheduled power outages. In June, rotational blackouts hit several parts of Metro Manila and other areas in Luzon. Electricity consumers experience rotating brownouts when the electricity supply does not meet the maximum demand. As a result, distribution utilities like Meralco and electric cooperatives have to interrupt electricity supply to less critical sectors like households. It's a balancing act, especially on a pandemic, when it is not just about the appliances or the inconveniences of staying home, but its impact on the economy with the modern world heavily dependent on electricity. But our reliance on electricity is more highlighted during the pandemic, with the lockdown restrictions forcing many citizens to work from home and digital economies flourish as we shy away from physical interaction. In 2019, the Philippines suffered from 21 rotational brownouts and 10 in 2020. This year, Filipinos have experienced 3 rotational brownouts more expected as the Department of Energy, citing data from the NGCP, reported a forecasted insufficient power supply in the coming months. A disruption in power supply adds to the disruption in daily lives when we are just starting to adapt to the digital lifestyle. Unplanned outages cost businesses a significant lot, an effect that ripples across industries in the backbone of the economy. And of course, the vaccines. A large stockpile of them requires refrigeration. Rotational brownouts, the department said, have short to long-term impact on the economy, with electricity rate surges immediately after each outage. In the long term, foreign investors will perceive Philippines as a nation with unstable and expensive power. These are lethal combinations to discourage investments, said Professor Roaldo Del Mundo, who also authored the Philippine Grid Code. The Energy Department also sees possible sabotage among power players. It stressed that it is not a power crisis issue, it is a compliance issue, and not just potentially on the part of power plants. Aside from ensuring the country's transmission assets are in optimal condition, NGCP does it by contracting power reserves. These ancillary services should be contracted by the NGCP in preparation for the dry months when power demand is rising. The NGCP failed to secure 100% of firm contracts for ancillary service. The DOE stressed that, needless to say, the forced or unplanned outages of power plants and the lack of ancillary services owned or operated by the private sector recently caused the rotational brownouts in Luzon. For the past 2 years, the government has reminded NGCP of its obligation to construct transmission and interconnection lines on time and ensure sufficient power reserves. But NGCP is consistent in its non-compliance to its responsibility with the firm contracting requirement. This has threatened the security and reliability of the power supply in the grid to the detriment of Filipinos. The DOE also cited other mandated obligations and government orders that the NGCP failed to comply with, including issues on cybersecurity, system operation audit, delay of transmission projects, delay in the initial public offering, and concession agreement and franchise-related non-compliance. Aside from its non-compliance to its mandated obligations, government rules and regulations, NGCP has even blocked repeated government attempts to audit it. And what do you call it? Regulatory capture? Former Senator Serge Osmeña was first to hint at possible collusion between the NGCP and regulatory watchdog, the Energy Regulatory Commission, because of the former's utter defiance to comply with obligations under its service contracts as well as fulfilling its promises. Senator Win Gatchalian, chair of the Senate Energy Committee who investigated the NGCP, believes there is a higher probability of a regulatory capture. That is why we need to be on guard if the regulator is indeed captured, meaning the NGCP is holding them by the neck. As a result, it was recommended that the government take over the country's electricity grid operations from NGCP. Just like in a circuit, if every component of the energy sector does its job, the flow of electricity will be uninterrupted. As cliché as it may sound, every question has an answer. But still, the country is left asking truths in every story there is. My name is Venice Bautista, and this has been Chronicles by Daily Tribune.